and welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm Blondie.
And I'm T.
And this is the fourth episode of Double A Month.
Is it the third or is it the fourth, Blondie? Come on now.
I'm blonde. I don't know. I lost count.
It's the 13th.
Don't make me think. I've had a very rough week.
Yeah, me too.
So we are going to continue with our installments of the asinine, absurd, and airheaded April.
I think we just covered airheaded.
I will wear that title proudly.
Yes, and very efficiently.
So on my way home today, I was listening to the radio or Siri, whatever I had on, and I heard a story about British farmers using Axe body spray to keep their rams from fighting. Have you heard anything about that?
No. Are we talking about the LA Rams? Are they even in LA anymore? I don't even know.
I lost track.
Me too.
Okay. So, like I said, British farmers were using the Axe body spray to curb the aggression of the rams. And apparently, he got this information from a Facebook group called Ladies Who Lamb.
Okay. I have so many questions.
Don't ask because I don't know. But the variety of Axe spray that they use is the Africa version, which I think they call it Lynx. But they spray them and they say that there's been no more fighting. Maybe because they're happy they smell good now.
They're all madly in love with each other now.
Right.
No more ramming of the rams.
I didn't even know they were aggressive.
Well, that's why they call them rams, because they ram each other.
I thought they just played football, but, who am I?
Now they're going to do it so much more lovingly, though. They're going to be like, you smell delicious.
How you doing?
That's right.
I guess that the Axe spray also works on sheep. There was a sheep herdess. Did I say that right? Sheep herdess?
No idea.
Instead of a sheep herder, it's sheep herdess.
Okay.
I swear I was about ready to say Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jennings says she uses it on her sheep.
You know, we all have visions of Caitlyn Jenner doing that now, right?
As a sheep herdess?
That's right. Out there with the little Bo Peep rod and everything.
Well, there you go. But she uses it on her sheep as well for different reasons.
That is really interesting. I had no idea.
I didn't either. My husband actually uses the shower gel and the deodorant. It kind of makes me happy, I will admit it.
Yeah, some of that stuff smells pretty good.
So what do we got going on today?
Well, today, it's funny that you started talking about ramming because...
Okay, you know where my mind went.
We're going to just turn that over a little bit and talk about wrestling.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not where I went, but I'm down for it.
Are you very familiar with professional wrestling?
Not at all.
Okay. I used to watch it when I was a kid because, when I was young, it was just me and my two brothers. And they used to watch it all the time. So whatever they watched, I had to watch because I was outvoted every time.
Did they practice wrestling moves on you?
Oh, no. I would have killed him. Even the big one. He'd have been dead.
I was going to say, your older brother's a lot bigger than you. So,
Oh, no. I got his number.
Yeah,
but,
I do too.
Okay. We're going to let that one go. But professional wrestling is one of those things that people either love it or they hate it. This very entertaining sport is essentially the merging of ridiculously flamboyant, gimmicky, dramatic theater with athletics. This remarkable collaboration between the two is a huge reason why professional wrestling has been so popular for centuries and still is today.
I've seen some of that stuff. It honestly seems very intense. I mean, just looking at the commercials for WWE, I kind of go, do I really want to get into that? I do know it's all, I don't want to say fake, but it's all staged. But it's still very intense.
Some people would have your head for saying that. Since the 1950s, professional wrestling promotions quickly became one of the most well-known entertainment sources in the world. As a result, the stories behind the scenes in professional wrestling are often far more interesting than anything you'll see on TV. If you ask me, they're very similar to crazy soap operas. So I get how people become addicted because I know grown adults who swear nothing is fake and they are hardcore fans. Yeah. I haven't watched it in recent years, but like I said earlier, I did watch it when I was a kid, and it really was exciting.
So those are the fans that would have my head.
Yes, for sure. I remember back in the day, Classy Freddie Blassie, The Sheik, Haystack Calhoun, Killer Kowalski, the Russian Bear, and Andre the Giant, who stood 6'5" and weighed 400 pounds. He was my favorite.
I do remember him. He had a really big head.
Yeah, really big. He just looked menacing, like really menacing. And during the racial segregation era, the first African American wrestler to cross the race barrier was Bobo Brazil. He opened the door for future generations of wrestlers of color to compete. And thank goodness for Bobo Brazil. Because can you imagine a world without Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson parading around in his chonies? That's a world I'd want no part of. Give me half-naked Rock all day.
Yeah, that's not a bad side at all. And speaking of non-swimming Speedo sports, what is it with them wearing those? And for that matter, what about sumo wrestlers and their giant thongs? What is that about?
I don't even know if those are thongs. Those look like fabric diapers. I don't know. They're bad. They're real bad.
I would definitely not want to wrestle anybody from behind. That's all I got to say.
Heck no. Wrestling is the oldest recorded sport. According to historical reports, wrestling is said to date back to 3000 BC. There's even a set of ancient cave paintings in Lascaux, France, from approximately 15,300 years ago that depict wrestling techniques and moves. These cave paintings are said to be one of the first visual representations of the sport. Now, wouldn't it be cool if the cave paintings had them all in like cheesy gimmicks too? The mask, the robes, the little chonies, and glittery boots.
That would be funny.
Yet it wasn't until the turn of the 20th century that the art of professional wrestling that we're familiar with today was brought to the forefront of the wrestling scene. Over 200 countries compete in wrestling worldwide, which makes it one of the most well-loved and popular global sports. For instance, at the London Olympics in 2012, wrestlers from 29 different countries received medals, while 71 different nations actively competed. Professional wrestling welcomes people of every size, gender, and shape into the sport. It's very diverse. This makes it highly inclusive, allowing professional wrestlers of every background to participate.
Wow.
I know, I kind of like that. A little bit more respect for wrestling. Interesting fact. You might think the highest attended wrestling event of all time was WrestleMania, right?
I would.
I'm not even really watching wrestling, and I would think that too. I've heard of it. But no, North Korea hosted the largest ever pro wrestling event, hosted in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, at May Day Stadium. The Collision in Korea was a joint event hosted by WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. It featured 15 matches over 2 evenings in April 1995 and brought in an astonishing 320,000 attendees in just 2 days. There are reports that many of these people were forced to attend by the government, but there's no concrete evidence to back that up. I think that's kind of funny and wouldn't be surprised if it was true.
I wouldn't either. I think they probably just wanted to say that they were the most attended wrestling event, going, we win.
Yeah, that's a unique country. In wrestling, there are banned moves. One of the most devastating and highly dangerous moves in professional wrestling is the pile driver. This is when a wrestler carries their opponent, aka the pile, upside down and drives them head first into the mat.
Ouch.
I know. But this fan favorite had resulted in some serious injuries to the head and neck that may also be life-changing. In 1997, Owen Hart delivered a pile drive that saw Stone Cold Steve Austin end up with a broken neck. Due to the high risk of the move, it's been abandoned unless the performers have special permission. You couldn't pay me enough to let someone do that to my head. Just thinking about it, I can almost hear that little crack crunch of my neck. No, thank you.
No, absolutely not. I realize when you turn me upside down, the body mass that's going to come crashing down on my head.
You will smash yourself.
Seriously. Gravity will take over.
Your poor head.
Right. Okay, so speaking of hot wrestlers, Steve Austin, yes, please. Plus, I love that voice. So gruff.
Yeah, he's a nice looking one. That's for sure. While male wrestling has always been nearer to the forefront of the sport, female professional wrestling has recently become much more popular and is gaining some serious traction. The likes of Fabulous Moolah, Trish Stratus, Sasha Banks, and Ronda Rousey have changed the game forever.
See, I didn't watch female wrestling either, but I will confess I did watch Total Bellas.
Who's that?
That's Brie and, oh gosh, what's her name? Can't remember her sister's name. It's two twin female wrestlers, and they had their own reality show.
Okay, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. What is her name? Darn it. It's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, continue.
Well, pro wrestling is all about performance. The wrestlers must master in-ring psychology, grueling rivalries, signature moves, and deranged personas. So it's not surprising to learn that pro wrestlers can and do easily make the jump to Hollywood, becoming instant crossover stars. Former pro wrestlers like John Cena, Dwayne Johnson, and Dave Bautista have successfully transferred to the big screen, appearing in many big-budget movies.
So did Steve Austin and Ronda Rousey. And also, John Cena was engaged or seeing one of the Bella sisters.
Oh, look at you knowing some wrestling information.
It's not about wrestling. I just know the chisme on the side.
All into the chisme. But professional wrestling is not always scripted drama. Sometimes real life can be far more dangerous, even deadly. Let me introduce you to another category of wrestling. Alejandro Perez-Jimenez and his twin brother Alberto Perez-Jimenez were born on May 15, 1975. I'm guessing that the twin brothers were not identical due to their height difference, but they did have something in common. These twins were born little people. Alejandro was 4'7", and Alberto was 4'9". Now, with that, I really wanted to tell this story because it's very interesting and unusual. But I definitely don't want to offend anyone. That is not our intent, even in the slightest, by describing people in any specific way. But in this case, their size really does play a huge part in why this became a crime. Hence the title, Size Really Does Matter. So I'm being descriptive for a specific reason.
Okay.
And from the information I found regarding these two men, some organizations also used antiquated terms in their professional descriptions, but I will not promote those terms. I want to be accurate with my information, though, so I will use the word mini, which is actually used a lot in the information I researched, and we're going to replace anything that might be offensive with the word mini. The LPA, Little People of America, an advocacy group, fought to remove a previously used offensive term from the English vocabulary because they feel it dehumanizes and objectifies those with dwarfism, and I want to be respectful of that.
Were they able to do it?
As far as I know.
Good for them.
So these twin brothers became internationally famous as part of the professional wrestling world in Mexico, and also here in the United States through various professional organizations. Alejandro was a Mexican mini luchador enmascarado, which loosely translates to a masked freestyle wrestler. So he was a mini professional wrestler. After being trained by his brothers, Alejandro made his professional wrestling debut in 1994. And due to his family connection, he was given the ring name Espectrito II, and he teamed up with his older brother, Mario, who at 4'9" was the original Espectrito. Alejandro's twin brother, Alberto, wrestled under the name La Parquita. Alberto worked in the Mini Estrella division from 1990 until 2009.
That's a long time.
Yeah, a very long time. Alejandro was most known for working for Mexican professional wrestling promotions within the Mexican independent circuit, as well as working for the World Wrestling Federation, aka the WWF. Since the WWF audience did not know any of the minis, it was decided to repackage almost all of the AAA minis, and Alejandro was no exception. He was repackaged as Mini Mankind, a miniature version of a very famous wrestler by the name of Mankind, whose onstage persona was an eerie, masochistic, mentally deranged, masked lunatic who spent his spare time dwelling in mechanic rooms. Is it me? Is it me, or is that super creepily specific? Why a mechanic room and not just any old scary room? You know, before researching for this, I didn't know that wrestlers came with a full backstory regarding their onstage personas. I knew some did, but I didn't know they all did.
Well, it's news to me, to be honest with you, that they have these personas, but maybe it helps them get into the headspace for their characters.
Maybe. Many of the mini wrestlers were given the same names as very popular full-size wrestlers in the division to help promote them, and apparently it worked because the World Mini Estrella, meaning Mini Star, Championship was created in 1992 and became very successful. Alejandro made his debut as a Mini Mankind on January 18, 1997, teaming with Hysteria to defeat Mascarita Sagrada Jr. and Venom on an episode of WWF Shotgun Saturday Night.
Okay, that was a whole lot of naming shenanigans, including the event title.
Oh, you don't have no idea how many names they all have. Many of them have tons of names, and I guess they all come with different personalities. It's so strange.
Can you imagine trying to keep them all straight?
No, I'm not even going to try.
You need a spreadsheet.
Exactly. Alejandro would often team with his older brother, Mario, who was renamed and worked as Mini Vader, a mini version of Vader, who teamed with Mankind at the time. So, in other words, there was a full-size team and a mini team with the exact same names.
And every time you say Mario, I think Luigi.
Of course you do. In fact, the very first Mini Estrella champion was Mascarita Sagrada, which means little sacred mask. He was only 4'5" and was extremely successful and had been featured in several films and marketing campaigns, including a cameo in the film My Giant. That's pretty ironic.
Very ironic.
With Billy Crystal, and he also had an ad campaign for Virgin Mobile. In early 2009, there was a controversy over Sagrada's appearance in a movie, possibly unmasked, which breaks the lucha libre code by showing his face. But it was later confirmed that it was another actor that was shown, and Sagrada remained masked the entire time. You know, no wonder it was so dang hard to find face photos of these guys. I didn't know the never being unmasked was a whole thing, but, you know, respect.
Okay, you say Libre. I think Nacho Libre with Jack Black. Now, I have seen parts of that. Does that count as watching wrestling?
Nacho Libre is such a great movie. There are so many great lines in there. I know in my family, anytime we have chips, we have to say, do they know they were the Lord's cheeps? It's so dumb, but you have to say it.
Okay, for those who haven't seen it, that is a line from the movie.
It is. And then second half of that, because, you know, he's talking about how the chips were stolen and the priest is upset. He says, I have had diarrhea since Easter's.
I think you probably have to see the whole movie to understand all of that.
You do, but anyway, those who have seen it will totally get it.
They'll appreciate it.
Right? All right. In 1997, a Mexican lucha libre promotion organization, AAA, started a talent exchange program with the WWF. And as part of that arrangement, AAA sent a number of their minis to work for the WWF. The repackaged minis also made an appearance on AAA's annual Rey de Reyes show. By the fall of 1997, all of the AAA minis had been repackaged once more, replacing the miniature version of regular-size wrestlers with unique characters. Alejandro was repackaged as Tarantula. Tarantula made a pay-per-view appearance for the WWF, teaming with Battalion and El Torito, who was his brother Mario, under a new name. By March 1998, the working agreement between AAA and the WWF ended with all of the minis returning to Mexico. Not long after the agreement ended, Alejandro and his brother Mario left AAA, opting to work on the Mexican independent circuit instead. This turned out to be a life-changing decision that would cost him dearly.
Wow.
On June 29, 2009, Alejandro and his twin brother Alberto were discovered in a hotel room in Mexico. It was reported that the two brothers checked into the hotel after a Sunday night show. They went out that night and began to party pretty hard. Lots of alcohol and drugs were involved. Two attractive women who appeared to be working approached the wrestlers and began to flirt. As the night went on, all four of them were kind of vibing, so the brothers decided to invite the ladies back to their hotel room and continue the party in private. It turns out that these two women were part of a group called La Filtración, who would drug and rob men of their valuables before any sexual acts could occur. Therefore, these women did not consider themselves prostitutes. Side note, the word filtración means filtration in English, which means to remove impurities and contaminants. So I wonder if these ladies thought they were doing a great service to deter prostitution by victimizing the Johns in their communities.
Sounds like it. And when you said the Spanish word, which I'm not going to repeat, I actually thought it was filtration.
Yeah, it's very similar.
But how do you apply for that job? I mean, what would the requirements be? What would you put on your application? Prostitute without being a prostitute?
I'm like trying to think of a response. I have no idea. Sometime during the evening, the two women spiked the twins' drinks with eye drops. Eye drops contain ingredients such as tetrahydrozoline and naphthalene, which suppresses the central nervous system. When the drops are mixed with alcohol, the effect on the nervous system is amplified. The body temperature drops, the heart rate slows down, and the person becomes sweaty, drowsy, and they can become violently ill or lose consciousness. Before this story, I had never heard of this. Had you heard of this?
I actually had. I've seen it in movies, assuming it was a gimmick or something, but it's actually true. I have heard that you become very sick.
News to me. The trick to spike alcoholic drinks with eye drops is apparently not a new one. In fact, it is a well-known trick and much cheaper than the use of other drugs, often associated with date rape. This seemingly innocent medication is used to concoct a mixture with similar effects as the date rape drug. Memory loss, coma, and even death are possible in extreme cases. You know, this is wild because we put eye drops into our system ourselves and there's no effect. I use them almost every day, so I'm shocked by all of this.
I'm guessing maybe the drops don't get into our blood system through our eyes, but personally, I think I'm going to think twice before using them again.
I have to use them. Can't wake up without them.
I thought that was
addicted.
I thought that was coffee. Just don't get them confused and put them in your coffee.
I mean, I can take coffee or leave it. It doesn't matter, but I got to have my eye drops.
So I do have a question. You said that it's mixed with alcohol. Does that effect only occur when it is mixed with alcohol? Like say if you mix it with water or whatever?
Well, it says when it's mixed with alcohol, it's amplified.
Okay.
So it's worse.
Okay.
So I'm guessing you shouldn't drink it with anything. Plus that bottle is so tiny. It's like a mini bar size. I mean.
But it's still $15.
Exactly. People swigging those. Give me another. When the brothers passed out, the two women robbed them of their wallets and cell phones. But the Jimenez twins ended up dying from the drugs added to their drinks due to the dosage being for a full-size man, where it would normally just knock them out or make them sick. The regular amount was far too lethal for these much smaller twins. The size of these victims was not considered and led to a deadly dosage, causing the double murder. You know, there were two ladies there. How did not one of them realize they needed to use less? Are neither one of them mothers? I don't get it.
I don't either. Apparently, they didn't read the directions.
Seriously. Put less in your eyes if you're under 4'10". Geez, I might want to put a little bit less in my eyes. Just in case. On July 22nd, 2009, it was reported that the Mexican police arrested one of the two women suspected in the death of the Jimenez twins. Police traced the whereabouts of the woman by tracking one of the brothers' cell phones, which she very stupidly personally used. The woman admitted to going to the hotel room with the twins, but denied being involved in their death. So, I'm guessing that in this ring of so-called professional prostitutes that don't actually prostitute, there's no how to not have sex training academy or proper dosage night school or how not to use a murder victim cell phone workshop, because that's a pretty dumb move. Now the whole gang has been exposed and there goes the business in short order.
Oh, there's a dad joke. So speaking of dad jokes, every time I see a mattress on top of a car, I think it's a prostitute making a house call.
That was more like my grandpa joke.
Oh, okay. Wow. And I do agree that they aren't very bright non-prostitutes.
They're really not.
Well,
not very smart.
You're not using brain cells for the prostitution part, so what the heck?
On August 12, 2009, Mexican police arrested the second female suspect, tracking her down in Hidalgo and arresting her. The second suspect admitted to being at the hotel, but was adamant that it was her accomplice that administered the drugs that killed the brothers. Both women were found guilty, and on July 12, 2010, each was sentenced to 47 years in prison. The story of the Jimenez twins' murder was the subject of an episode of Tabloid with Jerry Springer that included an interview with their mother, Maria Elena Jimenez, and their brother, Juan Jimenez.
Yet another brother.
You know how they do.
No comment.
I know how Mexicans do. I can comment.
You can comment.
The episode revealed that Alberto was starting to become involved with local politics, which created suspicion of whether this was a hit. But further investigations did not reveal any actual links between their deaths and Alberto's political aspirations. This was quite a tragedy that impacted many of the fans of professional wrestling. And although wrestling is a beloved form of theater with a scripted outcome, nobody could have ever dreamt about something so evil making its way into the limelight and sadly impacting this form of entertainment.
And we thought Piledriver was the worst they had to deal with.
It really is a sad story. I mean, the ladies didn't even mean to kill him. But they shouldn't be doing that to anybody. So I'm glad they got caught.
Exactly.
So here are some interesting facts about wrestling. Wrestling was one of the original Olympic sports, dating back to before 700 BC, as one of the sports in the earliest Greek Olympic Games. People were looking for a form of competition to replace deadly conflict. It's considered one of the great peacemakers in ancient history.
I'm guessing either way, they didn't believe in talking it out. What is it? We are men.
That's right. That's how they do.
Arr.
In 1904, the United States swept the Olympics. The games were in St. Louis, and it turned out to be an American whitewash. Americans took gold, silver, and bronze in each and every event.
I didn't know it was called whitewash.
I didn't know that either. I thought whitewash was something else completely.
I thought it was what you did on wood.
Yeah, well, I think it is what you do on wood, but that's what they said. One thing you will never see wrestlers do is sneeze, and that's because it's impossible for it to happen. Wrestling causes your body to clear airways so they can take in bigger breaths to get enough oxygen. Also, the wrestlers have a lot of adrenaline when performing, which keeps their airways clear. Basically, their bodies are too busy at the moment to allow them to sneeze when they are wrestling. Isn't that super interesting?
Very. Of course, they could always put it as the new allergy medicine, wrestling.
Every spring, I'm on the floor rolling around with my dog.
Sad to say, your little dog would win.
Sorry, I woke up congested this morning. Many famous wrestlers wore lifts in their boots to give them more height, and there are a few tricks used to make the wrestlers seem taller than they actually are. Only short referees are hired for the matches, and petite women who conduct the backstage interviews are told not to wear shoes so that the wrestlers look like giants.
They can't just wear flats?
No shoes.
Wow.
Doesn't surprise me about all the height manipulation, but it's always interesting how they actually do it. It's almost the same as the old saying that if you want to look skinny, make sure all your friends are fat. That makes sense to me.
Well, you picked the right best friend, sister.
No, I did not. Stop it. I'm going to end this with the famous quote from Nacho Libre. They may have the appearance of riches, but beneath the clothes we find a man, and beneath the man you find his nucleus.
Good old Nacho Libre.
Yep, that had to be in there. I'm sorry. It just did.
Well, that was a very sad, yet interesting and informative story.
Thank you.
And a little bit of the absurd with these non-prostitutes.
And the whole eye drop thing, I thought that was crazy.
No, I actually knew about that years ago, but I never thought to use it. Still not.
You probably needed it.
Probably.
Not me. I have willing victims.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think we'll end. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for listening. Remember to take care and don't forget to let your grimaginations run wild. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. We just want to thank you all for sharing your time with us. And if you'd like to send in your creepy little grim bits, we would love to hear your personal stories, interests, and suggestions. Please email them to grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at grimwitwithdimwits, Twitter at grimwitwithdimwits, and Facebook, Grimwit with Dimwits. Join us every Monday for new episodes, and feel free to share us with your grim-loving friends.
We would really appreciate if you would take a minute to rate and review. 5-star ratings go a long way and would really help us out. Until then, we would love it if you'd come back next week to delve with us into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.